Okay, so I'm now recording. Now, one of the things that sort of throws an awful lot of people comes with how to start writing. And I think one of the issues with how to start writing isn't so much how you start, it's more, okay, so once you get those first couple of lines down, where do you go from there? Now, the way that the exam works is they will give you information that you are to include, but they're also going to leave a huge chunk of stuff that they fully expect you to develop. So if we just have a quick look at this task here that we've been given, and this is taken from a level 1 writing paper. We've got here, you witnessed a minor accident where a cyclist crashed into a pedestrian who was crossing the road. No one was seriously hurt, but the cyclist and pedestrian had an argument about whose fault it is, which ended up with the police being called. As you witnessed the whole event, the police have asked you to provide written details for what you saw. So your task is to write a sequence of events about what happened and to include the following detail. So what we can start with really, aside from SLAP, so situation, layout, it's going to be a narrative, audience, police, reports, purpose, so aside from SLAP, which is what we tend to do either in our heads or on paper when we start planning, we can also start to think about this task in terms of what we are told to include, what we have to cover, and also what ideas, what things in this text we're supposed to come up with for ourselves. Okay, so just create a couple of boxes here. Now, it's a lot easier, obviously, to start with what we're told to include. So it needs to be about a minor accident with a cyclist and a pedestrian crossing a road. Now, one of the things that I'm sort of coming up with here, really, the first thing I notice here is we're not actually told an awful lot of stuff, are we, really? If we think about it, with a minor accident, what could that be? Maybe the cyclist crashed into a pedestrian, maybe the pedestrian wasn't really looking where they're going. So there's actually a lot of things that we can come up with for ourselves here. Just from identifying that, we're told to include about information about a minor accident between a cyclist and a pedestrian crossing the road. Well, instantly I'm thinking, which word? When did it happen? You know? So we're told about what happened. So we're told to include the info about the cause of the accident. But if we look at the text here, it doesn't tell us what caused the accident. So we have to come up with that ourselves. So we need to come up with what caused the accident. Again, whose fault you believe it was. Don't forget, there's always the option. You could say it's nobody's fault, really, or it's both their faults. Okay. And finally, what happened during the argument? And again, that sort of ties in with everything else here. So we need to basically flesh out the details here regarding what happened, who was at fault, where it happened, when. Those are all things we would expect to see in this document. So while we are absolutely given some things we have to include, we've also got a lot of questions we can start to ask ourselves here. So just from identifying, okay, so what are we told we need to include? What information are we given from this? Okay, we can then start to ask questions from that. And sometimes you might find actually starting by jotting down what you've been asked to talk about, what points you've been asked to cover, that will start you out asking questions about, okay, so what ideas do I need to develop? And it will provide a bit of framework, because one of the worst things really is where you're sort of sat there, you're looking at the question and you've just got a blank sheet of paper in front of you, and it almost feels like there's no direction. So by doing this, by picking out to start with, okay, what information are we told? What do we need to cover? You can then start to develop those ideas a bit more in your plan. And the other thing to remember about plans, of course, although I'll do this at a different time, is that a plan absolutely can change. If you start writing your text and you realise the plan isn't fit for purpose, or there's something you want to add, by all means do so. Okay, so I think that should be done.